everyone. This is the Go Along Podcast. I'm Tyler down here with Jim Monis. We're at Hamburg Brewing Company, drinking some beers, just listening to some good music. And what better way to top off a glorious Wednesday night than seeing my good friend, Conor Orr of Sports Illustrated, in the flesh, sort of, kind of. We wish you were here in Hamburg, New York, but we're on Zoom. So it does. I mean, Zoom is kind of my life.
I think we have to start off by saying the first thing we saw with Conor was a red Solo cup. Now, Conor, cheers, first of all.
Cheers.
Can you at least let our listeners know we promote the Hamburg beer is like it's out of control. Can we at least know what you're drinking in the red Solo cup?
No, he just put his kids down like we did about an hour ago.
So that's okay. So
that's your kids. They take a little longer to put down. So I don't know if you go to alcohol that quickly. Maybe.
No, it's a very boring answer. It was water. So yeah, not very exciting.
I was hoping for a straight.
I was gonna say
straight gin,
quick transition.
Some days, man, the kid life, you know that it's just like fire it up, fill this whole thing with Hendrix and then just knock it down,
Kids and head coaches.
Yeah, honestly, I was thinking we should just talk about fatherhood for an hour. I mean, we really could. We all have kids, and Conor's ahead of the game with us. So how old are your kids now, Conor?
4 and a year and a half. So, yeah, we're in the thick of it. It's great though. It's obviously impossible, but we've talked about being able to freeze them at a certain place in time, and this is exactly where I want them. I don't want them to get any older. Like my son's a year and a half. He's hilarious. He just says ridiculous things. My daughter's in the princess phase. There's nothing better than the Disney princess phase. It's amazing. We watch Frozen every single day. And,
yes.
It's just their whole life's a fairy tale. And I was like, this is great. Let's not, what are we doing with college or anything? Just stay here and we'll do this forever. We'll just, Disney princess for life.
It's the absolute best. So Jim has a son. I have
he's 2.
A 2.5, soon to be 3, and a 10-month-old. But we're in the princess phase with Ella. It's the best. You just put it perfectly. It's the best. I mean, she wants to change into a different princess dress every hour on the hour.
Yep.
And we're all about it. I mean, we're ripping through Moana. I mean, Frozen, Encanto. Encanto?
I think it's Encanto. We just got into Encanto. Yeah, the soundtrack is nonstop, man. Nonstop.
There are some jams. Absolute jams.
Yeah.
We don't talk about Bruno. Jam.
Yeah. Family Madrigal is a jam. We listen to it every single day on the way to preschool. I know all the words to both Frozen soundtracks. I'm in. But I love it. There's nothing better than that.
I'm nervous. My son gets excited. He has his shows he likes, but he also does get excited for the end of a horse race. when dad may have a bet on a game or a horse race.
Wow, you're already indoctrinating your son. That's horrifying.
Well, I figure by the time he's of age, all our kids, I mean, let's face it, they're going to have it on their phones, iPads. I mean, we all know it. I'm just trying to teach him hey, find value, do the exacta boxes, don't bet on the favorite. You can't make money. But he does cheer for the winning horse. He cheers for the winning horse.
That's the exacta boxes. That's how someone taught me how to bet. They were just just do this, because then everything else will screw up. So just do that. Yeah.
Conor, so I went to high school in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, Bishop McDevitt, and one of my assistant coaches took me to the Penn National, the racetrack there. First time I ever went. And we took the favorites. I took the horses he told me to take, and it lost. We're watching the race, and it lost. And I was like, dang, man, these guys were the favorites. He said, that's what the ATM is for. He goes, rip that ticket up. Let's go get some more money, and we got another race coming in 20 minutes. I said, okay, I got it.
On the other end of the spectrum, I've tried to just say the TV's broken, and I'll just turn it off and just say, sorry, Ella, it's not working.
So wait, I should probably go.
Just say it's broken, and go play some toys or read a book, Instead of getting them into gambling.
Well, my son's pretty excited this weekend. We got the Preakness coming up, so we got to bounce back. The Derby was a nightmare, but we'll bounce back.
It's nuts, Conor, though. I feel like we were just sitting at 744 Oster Ave, Syracuse University. So people who don't know, Conor's one of my best friends. We went to college together, covered Syracuse sports together. It was the best time of our lives, and here we are talking about kids and
who were the coaches? Who were the coaches?
Basketball
players, coaches. Who were there then?
I tell you what, maybe that's where we jump into, because there is a common thread here between the three of us. The coach that we covered in 2009,
Dougie Fresh.
Dougie Fresh, Doug Marrone, his first year at Syracuse. Conor was the sports editor.
This is awesome.
I was the co-managing editor, and we all wrote.
The first year he was the head coach.
The first year Doug Marrone was the head coach.
This was after he'd left us in New Orleans.
Right.
And we actually won the Super Bowl that year.
You knew him in New Orleans before Buffalo.
He'd left New Orleans. That first year he left, we won the Super Bowl. I don't know if he cares. I actually do know because I've talked to him about it. But he also told us to never draft Mike Williams.
Well, let's get into that.
We're gonna go. That's how I'm gonna start
it. It blew my mind that when you guys acquired Mike Williams, I did not understand that whatsoever.
This is where the story gets good. Go ahead.
Yeah. So Doug Marrone, it was his first year.
You guys covered him. So basically, he brought life to you guys, right? I mean, he's
kind of.
The guy is.
I guess
the guy is a really good head football coach. He really is.
Yeah, I remember being. He walked into Syracuse was playing Notre Dame maybe at the basketball carrier dome.
The jacket.
He ripped the suit jacket off and he threw it on the mid-court, and he was like, and then he said, "This is the only job I've ever wanted and the only job I'll ever have for the rest of my coaching career." We were just like, "Whoa, awesome!" I mean, you have to remember, God rest his soul, that was after Greg Robinson. I mean, that was
R.I.P.
Greg is, was as sweet and as kind of a person as there was, but had a hard time there. I mean, they took him from a different place, and recruiting, working in the Northeast is impossible if you don't have the roadmap.
That's the best word. Impossible.
Yeah.
Impossible. Yeah. Great word. Great word.
He had that great game plan for Brett Favre in the Super Bowl. I mean, he was this defensive coach, but it's a different world. It's a different world trying to recruit, and they probably. I remember Zach Berman we worked with at the Daily Orange Center, covers the Eagles.
Okay.
He made a great point. I'll never forget, that Syracuse probably should have fired Paul Pasqualoni a little sooner, right? While the program still had that prestige.
Yeah.
Because it was at a point where Syracuse
hold on too long.
Right. They kind of held on too long. So it kind of took a dip south. And then you move on from him, and then you hire Greg Robinson, and then it just completely caves. And to your point, I mean, Doug Marrone came in and
Marrone's a good football
got
coach.
To some bowl games and whatnot. But the year that we covered him was wild. I mean, for us as seniors in college, Greg Paulus is the quarterback. Mike Williams is going through all that stuff for whatever it was, a 4 or 5 win team. There was a lot going on.
Mike Williams, I think, that was the year I remember. God, we were running around to both police. We were driving between both police stations. Didn't he get into an accident at Turning Stone, or he was coming home from the casino? And we were like, me and one of the guys from the news department were trying to beat the local news station. I remember we were driving from one police station to the other to see where the records were, because something happened on Route 8. I remember it was like Route 80. It was like 81 North, because I'm from Scranton. So you literally you go on to 81 and you take one road to Syracuse. And so same road. And so I remember oh man, I know where that is. And we were trying to find the jurisdiction, the right police department. Wasn't there something like that? Like he got in trouble.
Yeah,
there?
It was Halloween weekend.
Yeah.
And he went to Turning Stone with a couple teammates, got into a car accident. I don't think that they were drinking.
I don't think so.
No, but it was like.
I'll disagree.
For Marrone, it was like the final straw. It was like that was it. I guess other stuff
Like,
that
he
happened
had
with
enough.
Mike, and he had enough. And then that's when,
So
that was the story I did for our Year in Sports series. Like,
that's when
Doug
you dug
Marrone
into
had that
it.
vote. Who wants Mike Williams on the team? Who wants him off? All of the black players went to one direction of the gym. All the white players went to one direction. More African Americans than Caucasian players on the Syracuse football club. But he couldn't get in touch with Mike Williams. He tried to call him apparently again and again, couldn't get through. As we've talked about on the podcast, Mike Williams said that his roommate had swine flu. He couldn't get to his phone. A day later, tried to beg and plead and say he wanted to stay. And Daryl Gross, the AD, tried to kind of like talk Doug into it. Like, no, we need him. He wants to be here. And Marrone would not budge. You are gone. But what's crazy is at his press conference, remember, like, he sold it as like Mike is just not on the team anymore. He kind of made it seem like he quit when he was really kicked off. So the messaging of that all was a little disingenuous.
So it's so crazy how when your careers go a certain way. So I'm an area scout in New Orleans. I scouted the Southeast, so I didn't do the Northeast at that time. But obviously we all worked with Doug. And Coach Payton said, hey guys, listen, when Mike Williams came up in our draft board, hey, Marrone called me and said, if you ever take this guy, blah, blah, blah. I'm never. Okay, that's fine. So we off the board for the Saints. Fast forward about, I don't even know, 2 or 3 years. I'm now the director of personnel with the Bills. Marrone's, the head coach of the Bills. We have a chance to trade for Mike Williams. And I told Willie, the GM, I'm like, there's no way Marrone's going to want this guy. Because when I was in New Orleans, Marrone said, don't ever touch this guy. Like, he's a disaster. Marrone said, yeah, let's take a shot. What do we have to give up?
Why? Like, what?
Because at the time, it didn't seem what we had to give up for him wasn't that bad. And we all felt the same way. His talent, you guys know, the talent was there. The talent, everything but top end speed, right, was off the charts. We all know that.
The best player, and it wasn't even close.
Couldn't drop a ball. Couldn't cover. His route running, his passion, tough, all that. He could never get out of his own way off the field. But Marrone fell to the trap once he was in the position. And he said, no, let's do it. And he was celebrating. I mean, Marrone was happy. We were all happy we had him. And he did some good things for us. And then all of a sudden, you don't know if he's showing up the next day.
It was really like that.
It was really like that. He had a rough. And then Sammy, I know you spent time with Sammy. We've heard stories from Sammy about Mike. The story. I mean, it's kind of like and that's not just Mike. It's a lot of guys, and they have a lot of people they want to help out, take care of. And sometimes you have to say no. And you know what? He didn't want to say no to some people, and it was a lot for him to handle. And
it's sad, really. I mean, somebody who's that talented.
He was so good, though. He was so talented.
But Conor, though, while we're on the
anyway, I'm sorry. I wanted to
subject though. If you want to go there, like, we got to talk about that meeting that we had.
Oh my
Doug.
God.
Yeah, so you guys,
I'll let Conor tell the story.
Yeah, I want to hear this. I want to hear this from you guys right now, because you guys talked to him at Sarah. Did you guys see him as being like an NFL head coach? Like, no, go with it. I'm not trying to paint the picture.
So it's interesting now. The person that we should have been looking to or for all along was Nathaniel Hackett. The guy was in the building the whole time and turned out to be like,
Exactly.
I mean,
he was there the whole time.
Let's talk about that after this.
Yeah,
that's good. That's good.
Doug was interesting to me because, and again, like for us, like we came from all we knew, like my internships and stuff. Like I went from covering high school girls softball to minor league baseball to Greg Robinson, Jim Boeheim, and Doug Marrone. So like, that was like my experience level.
Amazing. Right.
So like Doug was certainly like the most professional, like out of those 5 people that I ever dealt with, He
was very professional. That's another good. You're right.
And the way that he handled us, because our first big thing was when he got there, it was interesting because I actually found some stuff out about this like a couple weeks ago. Like I'm still very passionate about Syracuse football, Tyler. But like 35 kids like just quit the team.
Yeah.
They like right when he
That's
got
nuts.
there, like a third of the roster gone, like just completely like vanished. And so one of our kids that was going to be around, because we were outgoing, I think that was the spring of our senior year, right? Or no,
No, that would have been the spring of our junior year going in, because then we covered the fall.
When
right.
he was
right.
And we had a big meeting, the three of us, you, me, and the reporter who did the story, Brett Lo Gerardo. He works for the University of Pennsylvania, I think. And he
the meeting was our senior year for sure. That's right. Because it came out. Yes. You're right.
And we walked into the meeting with Doug, and it was the first time. Like we had asked him questions at press conferences and stuff, and we had met him and we'd had some time with him, but he came, and Brett was like a smaller guy, shorter guy, and Doug just gave him the biggest hug that I've ever seen him give anybody in his life. And he like picked him up and he was like, "Oh, it's up, buddy." And Doug's huge. And so we were just like, what the fuck are we dealing with right now? Like, it's almost like in times of war, like Sun Tzu, it's like act crazy so that nobody knows like what's going on. And so like I have to admit, like I was what, 20? I was thrown off. Like I was just like,
what's a lot at 20?
Guy, Yeah. And we had some good information. We had some solid information, but he seemed to just have an answer for everything. And at the time, when you're 20, you're like, oh shit, I'm wrong. Now that I'm 33, I'm like, most head coaches are accomplished liars. Like,
yes.
And so it's like, and I'm not saying that was just Doug, but like, that's everybody. And then they're not liars. They see everything the way that they want to see it. And head coaches have that archetypal personality where they only see things their way. And so Doug was like, yeah, that guy's just not a program guy. Like that guy was doing this, that guy was doing that. And like, there might've been some nuance there, which we wrote about, but for Doug, he didn't see it that way. It's like, that's not how a Syracuse football player acts. Get him out of here, And it was so interesting.
Like the haircuts, right? Like you had to have your hair cut.
One of the guys had a haircut. One of the guys had a Facebook profile picture of him drinking a Long Island iced tea, and he got cut. One of the guys wanted to be in the school play. He wanted to be in Hello Dolly. I remember that, and he cut him.
Marrone got pissed at me and Hackett. Pissed at training camp in Rochester, St. John Fisher. We had a night off, and we're all at some whatever bar we were at. And Hackett and I were debating, I'll use the word debating, over Hogan, Marquise Goodwin, okay, just in general. And I just said, look, we need to find a way to get both these guys involved. And Hackett was the same way. He loved both of them. We both loved them. My thing was, I thought Goodwin was a harder guy to find. I just said, Hackett, he's rare. Like, I just felt like he was rare with his, you can't find guys that can run like that. Hogan, I loved Hogan, but let's face it, I just didn't see him be. That was we had a debate, and it got, it was just the two of us, but it got loud enough where people were, other people were there. Somehow that got back to Marrone. So he comes to my office the next day at training camp. Hey, man, you and Nathaniel, he goes, hey, you and Nathaniel, that's ridiculous. I don't want you guys doing that in public. He was right. I said, Coach, you're right. That was wrong, blah, blah, blah. But he was very passionate about that. But I was just shocked that it got back to him.
How did that get back, you think?
Well, I don't know. Who knows?
Was it a crowded bar?
It wasn't even that crowded, but we were outside, and Hackett and I were definitely, and Hackett and I always kind of talk like that too. Yeah. We would have good arguments. I always called them arguments, debates, whatever. But I thought it was a fun debate with the personnel and the offensive coordinator and the guy. I thought it was a fun debate because I'm like, I could get Hogan anywhere. Like, I can find Hogan anywhere. I can't find 4.3 speed that every coordinator in the world is afraid of. The funny thing is, that never really went away for Hackett, which I respected. Like, he during the season, after that debate, that was training camp. During the season, when Hogan would make a big play for us, he would come up to me and almost give me the middle finger. I was like, Nate, I didn't hate Hogan. I just thought Goodwin was a hard guy to find. Like, but that's how coaches and scouts, that's how much pride, just like you guys probably have pride in what you do, right? You have pride in what you put out and talk about, but we had that pride. But the fact that Marrone came to me about that argument, it really pissed Marrone off. He did not like that.
He wants the control over the whole
And I just was
operation.
surprised he cared about that. I was surprised he cared.
He Nathaniel, I did a big profile of him for Sports Illustrated in September because I do our head coaching stuff every year, and he was our top candidate heading into the season, and so I did this whole big thing on him. And one of the things that I thought was funny, because we got to talking about being at Syracuse together at that time, it was something I wish I knew. But Hackett, his big thing was, I need to teach kids things in a way that they're going to learn. And so he's like, I'm teaching 18-year-old kids, so we're going to play Lonely Island. We're going to play Dick in a Box at meetings. Like, we're going to, and we were,
that's him.
Like,
that's him.
And he was like, we would have it blaring, and he's like, I'd be dancing. And then he goes, and then someone would tell me Marrone was in the building, and so we'd cut the sound, and then we'd have a meeting, and so Doug would leave, and then we'd pump it back up, and but he was so right, man. Like, and it's so interesting because he got so much out of those teams, and they were practicing at Fort Drum, I think, right after it was going into it was the spring of our senior year. So then the next year, they were practicing at Fort Drum, and the offense just got their asses handed to them. And it was like 3 weeks before the start of the season, and Hackett said, fuck it, we're running K-gun. Like, he literally threw the playbook in the garbage, installed a new playbook in 3 weeks, and then Ryan Nassib became the leading passer in school history. Like,
that's unbelievable.
Incredible. Awesome. Yeah. That's awesome.
It's amazing.
He's brilliant.
He really is.
Got that combination of being legitimately X's and O's, smart, intelligent, yet relating to human beings.
There it is.
That's a hard combination.
You guys both hit on it.
Is huge.
You both hit on it as a head coach. He's going to try to max out his players, their age, their talent. You both said it. That's a true coach. And that's what he grew up. He grew up watching his dad, regardless of whatever you think of his dad. He's a coach, a teacher, and Hackett has that in him. It's going to be fascinating to see how he does with.
I think him and Russell Wilson are going to be kindred spirits.
I think Russell
are like eat, sleep, and breathe.
I agree. After dealing with Russell, just dealt with what he dealt with that rah-rah Carroll.
Oh my God, yeah.
This guy he's gonna come up with some offensive, like, blow your mind away stuff.
What do you think, Connor? I mean, you know Hackett as well as anybody.
Yeah, I got to really look at their offense, and what I think is really interesting is, everyone's saying, oh, when you work with Aaron Rodgers, it's easy. And I was like, it's almost harder. And you would know that, Tyler. I mean, because you have to come to work so over-prepared, and you have to pacify this guy. You have to explain everything that you're doing. You have to make it work for him. What I think was so interesting about Hackett was, like, LaFleur is the play caller, but what Hackett's doing in the middle of games is he's being like, okay, but on this play, when you call it, you're going to have the tight end block this way every single time. And then on the fifth time, when everybody's waiting for it, boom, like he's going to shake the guy and he's going to be wide open down the field. And like when Rodgers had those kill shots, that was always Hackett. That was him seeing the game develop from kind of like a narrative perspective and calling his shots. And I just think, like, when you have a coach that thinks that way, it's so hard to defend that, because, like, you might be stopping a team on first down, second down, but they're using that 3 or 4 drives ahead of time to screw you over, and you don't even know that it's happening,
What I didn't realize when I was a scout and then I became director of personnel, so now you're in the office and in the meetings, but what you just said is so true. They will tell you, hey, we're going to do this on first down, this on second down. This third down play this should be a touchdown. Mm-hmm. Like, they seriously design the plays, and this should work for a touchdown. That blew my mind, that they could actually calculate and study that hard their opponents. I loved it because I couldn't wait on game day. I'm sitting up there in the owner's box, with the owners, and you're sitting there like, all right, this is going to be the play. and you could see it develop, and you could see what they saw, and you could see why, if it worked or not. But you see what they had it, they planned it, and Hackett he would come into the office next. I'm telling you, that second day he would come in. Look, this should have been a touchdown. And he would see, and I'm like, yeah, you're right. You're right,
man.
Yeah, I mean, they really put that type
with Aaron Rodgers day in and day out too, where you're dealing with somebody who not only thinks he's the smartest person in the room, but probably is the smartest person in every room he's in.
Tough.
There's not much you can show him that he hasn't seen before.
Tough.
He knows it. And I don't really care what he or Mike McCarthy say about that relationship. He didn't really respect him from the get-go, and probably was right. I mean,
that's what it's.
You know what I mean? But to earn his respect, earn his affection,
hard.
His genuine respect is so hard. And there were players there with the Packers who told me, like, the coach he respected and loved, like, on a weird level, was Nate Hackett. Like,
yeah,
that was his guy. Like, it was real there.
That's why
that says a lot about him.
That's why you had to get Tom Clements this offseason, because you couldn't take that much air out of the building for Rodgers and then not replace it with something that meant anything to him, And so I think you had to do something for him, and that was to get him a friend, back in the building. But yeah, it was huge. I mean, that's why I'm convinced, and I don't know this for sure, but I think that Hackett probably had a lot to do with the Rodgers movement rumors out there, because I think probably everyone in the NFL saw it the way that we did, where Rodgers never treated another coach like that, never had as much respect for another coach as he did for Hackett. And Hackett was the hot candidate. Like, he was going to go. And so I think that was probably the reason there was so much juice behind that, because everyone just assumed, like, okay, if Hackett goes somewhere, I mean, that's where Rodgers would logically end up if he wasn't staying in Green Bay,
My favorite thing with Hackett and Marrone, kind of wrap it up or go back, but to think about, they were together in Jacksonville. I still think Hackett got this job based on what he did with Blake Bortles in Jacksonville.
I agree.
And to think the head coach was
the AFC Championship game.
Insane.
It's insane. Doug Marrone fired Hackett.
Yeah. Yeah. Someone from Jacksonville, actually the combine this year, told me that was the biggest mistake. Someone that worked there at the time, and I mean, that whole team is blown up now, but someone who was down there at the time said that was the biggest mistake that we made during that whole thing. Like, you made it to the AFC Championship game, and then everybody put their hands in the pot and screwed it up. Like, Hackett got fired. There was this mandate from on high that was like, okay, Blake got us to an AFC Championship game. Now let him take over games. Let's pass the ball 40 times a game. And they were like, no, like,
Don't do it.
Like, let's run the ball. And so it was, God, they blew up something amazing there. I mean, it's so I would write a book on that. Like that.
I was just going to say,
defense was so
Jalen
good.
Ramsey, like Calais Campbell, Yannick Ngakoue, like
Calvin Smith.
Yeah, like you fired Dave Caldwell, but like that wasn't his fault. Like, look at all the players he drafted. Like, that team was amazing. Like, he got Allen Robinson,
Caldwell. Caldwell could be his own 30 for 30.
Yeah,
on ESPN. Somebody needs to tell me how he's not a head coach in the NFL. I'll never understand that.
It's. I mean, the teams that, and granted, he was picking in the top 10 a lot. Yeah.
Okay. Here's somebody on that side of picking in the top 10 sometimes. Yeah. It's not that damn easy.
I know. I was gonna say, yeah, and
Yes.
So, yeah. Okay. Bortles was a miss, but what was interesting about Bortles is if you ask anybody else, like I talked to somebody who was in the Ravens draft room, and they said Ozzie Newsome had Bortles as his number one quarterback. If you really compare yourself to any other GM,
Whaley and I walked out of his pro day in Central Florida.
Really? You didn't like it?
We watched about half
like
of it.
Like a bad movie. You just left?
It was like, we just weren't Bortles fans.
Yeah. Yeah.
Our scouts weren't. We weren't. We went to the pro day to look at some other guys, and they kind of worked out first, and then Bortles
People
was
fall
last.
in love with the intangibles.
He looks the part. He's going to sell you. I mean, it's face of the franchise, blah, blah, blah. We didn't like anything We didn't see it.
Well, he'd hold
His
delivery
yes,
of the ball.
all of
and
it,
he'd
all
right
of
at
it.
his hip.
Delivery, accuracy, just decision making, quick, blah blah blah. We just never fell in love with him, and we didn't have anybody else on our staff that did either. It wasn't just us. But halfway through it, we were like, all right, we're good. Like, we're not taking this guy.
Yeah.
Let somebody else be the hero. That's a scouting term. Let somebody else be the hero. Like,
Man, well, that's a great point. While we have you though, Connor, we got to talk some Cleveland Browns.
yeah,
do it.
Connor, what's going on?
Your brain, inside of your heart, because I can remember sitting there at 744 Ostrom Ave. You know, I was a Packer fan in those days.
Yeah.
Connor's a Browns fan in those
What's
days.
744?
That was the address for our newspaper, our student newspaper.
I love it.
That's where we lived, basically.
So you guys were like the what's the school in Virginia, the high school that puts out all these recruits? Like, you guys were the breeding, like the AAU squad that just
it was. I mean, we didn't
the
really know
next
it at
grade
the
beat
time.
writers are coming from Syracuse. 744.
All of us are friends. All of us are
Right. You guys have like
there all the time.
You're talking about it.
It's crazy when you think back. Like, I mean, we got a few drinks in at Chuck's, you know, down in Marshall Street, but most of our time was spent basically at that house and
Working.
anyways, working. Yeah. You know, it was a daily newspaper.
Yeah.
But you were, that was your heyday. That's when.
Yeah, it's been all downhill since then. That's when we peaked in life.
I mean, we're all thriving right now. I mean,
Yeah.
we're all thriving.
We're
That's
singing.
right.
We're singing. You know, you don't know about Bruno, and don't talk about Bruno, and you know.
I gotta tell you, it's a lot more fun talking about everybody that makes bad picks than when I actually had to make the picks. I will tell you, I like this side. I like this side of it.
You know what though? I've thought my whole perspective on all this. It's weird how much it changed with kids, to be honest with you. And
wow, that's well said.
Last year when
So true.
when Matt Nagy, they were chanting "Fire Matt Nagy" at his son's football game.
And his kids,
yeah.
his kids. I know.
And I was not a Matt Nagy fan necessarily, and I
Central PA. Connor, where are you from again?
Scrub in Scranton area. Yeah.
High school?
Yeah.
I went to college. Go ahead.
I went to Abington Heights, but yeah, I like, so he was down in Delco area, wasn't he?
He was in Manheim Central, which is in Lancaster, PA. I went to college at Bloomsburg, right outside of Scranton.
You went to college at Bloomsburg?
I did.
So did my wife. I got my Husky gear on, like right over here.
It's the Ivy League of the PSAC.
I
was there for about 7 years. I didn't get my doctorate, but
a lot of people go to college for 7 years. Jim.
But okay, good. That makes me feel a little better. But anyway,
doctors.
Matt Nagy. My dad was his offensive coordinator. That's another story. Friend of the show. We had him on. Friend of the show. We can go on and on.
Nice.
Don't even get us started on Bloomsburg. But point being, Matt Nagy, I've known forever. My dad knows him. They've worked camps together. I thought he was going to be the answer in Chicago.
Yeah.
I really did.
But I do like this point that Connor's about to make about being a dad.
I want to hear this because I love it.
That changed so much for me because I was just like, you know what? Like, and I know it sounds like, you know, it's like, it's a shitty thing to say out loud, but it's like, you don't know what it's like until you think about it happening to you, and you can't envisioning it happening to you until you have kids. And then all of a sudden you're just looking at it and you're like, my God, what if, you know, and like, you know, back when Deadspin was in its heyday and they were writing all this shit about how you should fire all these sports writers and stuff, like if there was something my kid could look at online about me saying like, oh, your dad's a piece of shit and he needs to get fired, I would be heartbroken, you know? And I wrote something like, you know, just defending Matt just as a human, you know? And I felt like that whole thing extended beyond, you know, I was talking to a coach, an assistant the other day, and he was just like, man, you know, you just have no idea how much time we put in. And you know, I don't see my kids growing up. Like, that's the sacrifice. I love this. And, you know, eventually I would like to be a head coach for them. But like, if I don't, you know, I've sacrificed all this and I've missed their lives. Like, it's done. Like you can't go back.
So sad.
You can't go back to first grade, second grade, third grade, and so that's why they take it so seriously, and so, every time I write now, I try to run that through my head, and it's like, okay, is it fair to that guy? Is it fair to all these other people? And this will send us down another slippery slope, but you think about someone like Urban Meyer and the way that he treated his staff and how hard those people were working and everything that they were sacrificing in their lives to be good at that sport, and to be dressed down like that with such regularity by a guy like that. Like, every time I write now, I try to think of that. It's like, people are sacrificing their livelihoods, their kids, seeing your kids grow up, and so do I really want to hammer this guy now? Like, is it fair to hammer this guy now because, putting it through that lens? And I think it's changed a lot of my willingness to write something,
Well, it's a great point.
Great point.
Such a great point. When I don't know if this is a segue or not, but like having daughters, right?
Yeah.
With this Deshaun Watson stuff in Cleveland, it makes I don't know. You become more of a softie,
tough,
right?
Yeah, tough.
It's harder to consume the detail
tough.
of the allegations, and your colleague Jenny Ventris was all over that, and it's difficult to read.
So I found out about it. I got my editor called me while I was taking my daughter home from school, and I grew up a Browns fan, and so I think a lot of my family knew that I liked the Browns. And so when she was born, they got her a lot of Browns stuff, and like she has a Browns bear that she would go to bed with at night and stuff. And on the way home, I was just like, hey, something happened, and we're picking a new team when we get home. Like,
I like that. We're picking.
I was just like, we're gonna look at and for her it was fun. It was like, great, I get to look at the iPad. Awesome. That's all she cares about. It was like, awesome, I get to look at the iPad tonight. But it was like, as a dad, you're like, holy crap, what's going, I think I used to like the Browns so much because there was that constant 100% effort, but just total flatline fail. Like, it was like a cool thing. It was like, that was me.
Total flatline.
We'll link to it in the post here, but it was an incredible column that Conor wrote about this all.
I saw it.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Sorry to cut you off.
No, it's true.
It's just like, and I think there was something that I liked about that. And, if we were to share something as a father and daughter, it'd be like, it's like, oh, they stink again this year, but at least, we'll try and we'll hire some other crazy guy and we'll see if it works, and there was something lovable about that. But now it's like, it just feels so dark and calculated, and like they're betting on the fact that we as a society move on from things eventually. Mm-hmm. That's what they're betting on. They're betting on us not caring in 2 years. That's the bet.
They might, and you know what? They might be right. They probably are right if they win.
Yeah.
And it's sad because we all know really good people that work for that franchise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That with some high up positions. And I'm sure it was difficult for a lot of people in that building to pull the trigger on this all. And let alone, the conversation about the player himself. I mean, that's somebody that I really thought I knew as a human being. And maybe you don't. Everybody has multiple layers, but talking to teammates and coaches and from all levels, you wouldn't hear a bad word about Deshaun Watson from anybody. Like, it was the last thing
you couldn't have guessed that.
Yeah.
Regardless.
Never would have guessed.
But to your point, the GMs, the head coaches, the decision makers, they have wives.
Mm-hmm.
They may have daughters. I don't know, but don't think that doesn't come. Don't think that doesn't get talked about.
Yeah.
Because I mean, we've all been there, and it's a tricky situation.
They're gonna have that conversation.
We did it with Richie. Home. We did it with Richie Incognito in Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
And Kim Pegula, Terry Pegula, Doug Whaley, Russ Brandon spent time with Richie, and we, and felt good about everything he said, and let's go. But don't think for a second that wasn't hard. I mean, and questioned, and now Richie had to prove himself, and he did. He came to Buffalo and did a great job, but that wears on your family and yourself. So you're right. It's
Connor, people in the building. Like, what can you tell us about how people process that decision?
I think I think it's gonna be hard. Like, I think that's the one thing, and I'm not putting this on, and I actually don't think we should put it on Paul DePodesta, the director of
tough.
strategy, but
It's so hard. This is hard.
I think it's like whoever's idea it was, I think it stems from this kind of far away calculated thing where, like, they're all numbers on a spreadsheet, they're going to perform to a certain level. But I just keep going back to, like, he's going to get up, and he's taking them to the Bahamas or whatever this week. I saw the report, and they're all going to work out together. But there's going to be moments when things get tough, and he's going to stand up and have to command a locker room. And what's that going to look like? I have no idea. Like,
nobody does.
I have no idea.
They don't know either. But to your point, they went through all these scenarios. The owner, the coach, GM, for sure.
Yeah.
Hey, here's going to be. Are we ready to take this on? They all agreed they were.
He's an unbelievable talent,
and I said it from the start.
Deny what he can do on a field.
I remember when it first happened. We did a pod, and Tyler was like, "What would you do?" And I was like, "I hate to say it, it's hard. It's hard, but how can you not explore? Can he play for us?"
Because the quarterback decides
it's everything,
unlike any employee.
It's everything in your profession. If you get the quarterback, you're set in your profession.
But they could win 7 games this year, and I wouldn't be surprised.
That's okay.
In that
division. They'll be okay with that too, knowing they have him next year. Like, I'm just telling you how that's how they talk about it.
Yeah,
it's not just about this year.
At what cost?
At what cost? Can he get us one Super Bowl in the next 5 years? Do we have a chance to win a Super Bowl with Deshaun Watson or Baker Mayfield?
So I think this is something that, Jim, I think is a good question for you, and something that I've always wanted to ask a coach. And Jenny Ventus, who was with us, and Greg Bishop, when they wrote the story on the Chiefs 2018 Super Bowl, they had talked to Andy Reid about, this was in the thick of the Tyreek Hill situation, right? And good. Frank Clark had domestic abuse.
I'm talking about, go ahead. I love this.
So you win your Super Bowl. But, like, are you sitting there on your rocking chair when you're 80 and being like, was it worth it? You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, I don't know.
It was worth it.
Yeah.
Yes, it was worth it.
Yeah.
And I'm laughing because my friends and I, that we talk about this all the time, because we talk about what do you hear so much in building a team? Culture, right? We hear this word more than ever. Now, the Kansas City Chiefs, these guys were all high risk, all of them. What changed them, obviously, was the quarterback, but they don't regret one single thing. Promise you. Promise you. I'm not saying those decisions were easy, but I'm just telling you, we don't regret the Richie Incognito thing.
This is where you're rare, though, Jim, because you're a human being. You've got a heart and a soul, and but you see more and more stories come out where it's like these from scouts to coaches, everybody that runs a team, you are married to your profession, unlike anything else. You're at the building all the time,
nonstop.
I mean, you might get 3-4 hours of sleep, and it's
your life revolves around.
I mean, you are. You better be doing that, or you're behind. That's for every reason. That's the psychology behind the job, and
everybody.
And that's the coaching aspect of it. And the scouts are living out of Marriott's away from your families all the time.
Right.
So when you are that committed, that all in, you're going to look past some stuff that morally other people wouldn't look past.
Production equals tolerance, and how good are you, and where do you value the guy? Junior Gillette was a defensive end we drafted. Oh, we didn't draft him in New Orleans. We signed him as a free agent, undrafted. I was the scout in the Southeast. He went to Stillman College in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Okay. When I tell you this, I met with him. He came in. I was watching film on him in their locker room. Okay. I'm telling you guys, it's crazy. Scout's life. I'm in their locker room before practice watching film on him. He comes in. They're already started practice. He's not dressed. Junior comes in and he's like, I got out of class late. He had transferred from Temple. He wasn't happy to be there, but he still loved football. I'm watching before he came in. I'm watching the tape, thinking, "Oh my God, I can't wait to get to hear all the story. The story comes, blah blah blah." Long story short, we bring him to New Orleans. We spend time with him. Doesn't get drafted, we sign him right away because we spent time with him. He liked us. He liked our coaches. We bring him in. After the first mini camp, Jonathan Vilma and Darren Sharper were like, "Get him out of the building. He is the worst guy. This guy is annoying to everybody." Greg Williams was our D coordinator, thought he was going to hurt Drew Brees because he didn't understand the protocol
right,
in a
yeah.
practice where he might take his knee out. That's how it works, though. We took a shot on a guy like that because we want to win so bad.
Yeah.
And that was an undrafted DN from a D2 school.
Yeah.
Deshaun Watson's a proven quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah.
So I guess that's why I'm always so.
I mean, I can remember training camp when I was covering you guys and seeing Doug and Rex talk at Pittsburgh Pub. And clearly what they were talking about was Ican and Polly. Because
I can tell. I was
the next day you guys signed Ican and Polly.
We thought he was garbage. We didn't think he was a good player. We're like, "Rex, he stinks." Rex was like, so let's take a shot on him. And okay, if it's once again, production equals tolerance. We didn't have to give up anything to take a chance on him.
Right.
Junior Gillette with the same.
But he
we
did
didn't have
punch his quarterback in the jaw.
And he wasn't a good player.
And he wasn't good. That's a bad combination.
Bad combo. Still take a chance. That's how bad it gets.
Yeah. Rex believes something there,
That's how bad it gets, guys. I don't hold back. Connor, I don't hold back. I'll let it out there.
It's interesting.
Before we lose you, though.
Yeah,
Connor,
we gotta go. We're getting shut down here. Yeah.
Cleveland tanking. Unbelievable story. Was it last week or 2 weeks ago now? I'm getting my days mixed up.
It was 2 weeks ago. So it came out like it was like the Tuesday after the draft. I mean, what was interesting to us is, the NFL released their findings the day before we ran the story, which I think is
I read that story. It was good.
Not maybe coincidence. I don't know, but
yeah, shocking.
But
I like how you guys work.
But what I found interesting was, we're not saying that it happened. We're not saying that it didn't happen. What we are saying is, we obtained a copy of Hugh's contract and we talked to coaches around the league, coaching agents, dozens and dozens and dozens of people who have seen hundreds of coaching contracts combined. No one had ever seen anything like this before. And in Hugh's contract, there's a table, an Excel spreadsheet, and this is an addendum to the contract, right? So they didn't put it in the contract so that it wouldn't go to the NFL. Because every coaching contract goes to the NFL. This was a separate little document that once it came back from the NFL, got attached to the back end of it, conveniently. And in this document, there are things like
right there.
Categories, draft capital, make at least 11 picks, 5 in the first 3 rounds. If you're a coach, you get a 10% bonus. And if you're personnel, you get a 20% bonus. There was another one.
I've never heard of anything like this.
Rank in the bottom quarter of cash spend carryover, at least 15% of league cap. Coach gets a 5% bonus. Personnel gets a 7% bonus. There's all these different examples.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
And so, the NFL got this information, concluded it wasn't tanking because you're not actively getting paid to lose. But my question is, what is that then? And they're saying, well, every team, this is how you build, this is how you win. But how is that not giving a coach extra money to lose a game? I don't understand. It's still it's interesting to me.
Like strong suggestion if there ever was one.
So what we said, the comparison that we made basically was that the NFL at the end of the day said, like, instead of tanking, it's like, listen, you're not allowed to make a pizza, but if you were to grab a crust and throw sauce, cheese, and toppings on it and heat it up, that's okay. And so it's like, okay, well then we have a matter of semantics here. But what I think is interesting long-term, and I wrote this a couple of days after, was I think what the NFL is doing is they are providing the bottom line for how low you're able to go with the Dolphins investigation coming up. And so, here's what's going on with the Dolphins thing over here. And now you have the Browns and you say, okay, well, the Browns, that's the Mendoza line.
That's one thing, right?
So the Dolphins are up here, so they're fine. They didn't tank. And so And now the word is out to the rest of the league. It's like, okay, just don't do this. Like, don't go 3-36. Don't start Cody Kessler and Deshaun Kaiser at quarterback. Don't,
Jim's a big Deshaun Kaiser fan.
and he might have been good, but it was
no. They went to his workout just to try to throw everybody else off. They didn't like him at all.
We did a throw off. That was the Mahomes, Trubisky, Kaiser. We did a throw off. We went to him first. Anyway, go ahead.
Sorry.
So I think it'll be really interesting moving forward. I mean, the Browns thing, were they tanking? Were they not? I don't know. I mean, could you have spun that as an effort to just make sure that everyone was on the same page with the fact that it was going to be a long rebuild? Maybe, because you extended Hughes' deal after he won 1 game in 2 seasons. So you showed some faith in the coach, but everybody that we talked to was just flat out stunned. We were just like, you've never seen a situation where a coach has been paid to have 11 picks in the first 3 rounds of the draft. Like that's just doesn't exist anywhere.
Doesn't exist.
Which there's probably a lot of coaches, GMs, owners that could get on that same page for teams. Right. Like,
No doubt.
I think by the end of Buffalo, you're kind of like, all right, if we're not going for it, let's.
Well, you hit that phase.
Start Cardell.
Well, that's the difference between coaches, owners, GMs. Like, what are we trying to do? What's the goal?
Let's have a concise.
Yes.
Like, this is
are we trying to?
And that was it was just in writing, And it's
to the point where now, because the NFL said this is okay, and I wrote this too. I was like, if I'm a free agent now, if I'm an agent or a free agent, any team that I sign with, I have to know if my coach has a pick accrual bonus in his contract, because if that's true, I'm not going.
That's good, Connor.
Or
totally.
if you have a cash or cap spend bonus
Like
in your
that.
contract,
I like that.
I'm not going.
Right. I'm not going. That's good, Connor.
And it's so true. I mean, we can sit here and say, "Oh, it's."
I didn't even.
It's smart.
That's
you have a
something I
plan,
haven't
but
even
you're
thought
screwing
about.
over the players.
Right.
I mean, you're screwing over
No,
everybody involved.
It's
That's trying to win. You can't sell that you're trying.
These guys are out here killing themselves.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
To make a living, and they're looking at the front office and the coaches like, "Are we trying to win?
Right.
I'm out here doing what I can. Are you guys?" I used to feel that. I mean, I remember that. I feel like, are you guys trying? Because I'm trying. I used to see those. I mean, we all know. You guys have all been around these guys. They are killing themselves and playing a sport where they can violently get injured.
Yeah.
They're doing everything they can.
For who? For what?
For what? Ricky Waters. I have a shirt. I've actually have that T-shirt. He's from my high school, Bishop McDevitt in Harrisburg.
I kind of feel bad for Ricky Waters. I mean, he was a damn good running back.
Should be in the Hall. That's a whole
what he's
other.
remembered for.
Let's not start that, because he should be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
He and Shady McCoy and myself went to Bishop McDevitt.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, yeah.
Well, when you think Shady, you think Jim Monis. And
No, I just like to say I went to their high school. Anyway.
Everybody, please read Connor's story.
Connor, thank you. This was
There's-
awesome, man.
You're listening to one of, if not the absolute best in the business when it comes to just, I don't know how you do it. I mean, having that eye in the sky kind of look at the league, Connor, and having a fresh perspective on everything. It's rare.
And he has summer vacations with Doug Marrone in Western New York. They are that tight.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see him on the golf links. He's back in New Orleans now, so it's
That's true.
You know what? I love that Aaron Cromer is the offensive line coach back in Buffalo right now, who I worked with, and then Marrone's back in New Orleans.
Is Marrone gonna love that penning or what? First round pick.
I'm gonna just tell you right now.
That's like the son he never had.
Offensive line coaches are the best. There are very few that are respected. It's a hard job. It's a thankless job. Nobody wants to do it in coaching. Like assistant coaches, nobody wants to do it. When you are labeled a good one, job for life.
Oh,
job for life.
Chris Furster he's with San Francisco. Like, if you're good at what you do, it doesn't really matter.
How can we follow that up? How can we even follow that up?
All right, Connor. Thank you so much for hanging out.
Cheers, Connor. Thanks, man. That was awesome.
To see you. Long overdue.
yes.
Any day, anytime you ever want to come back, you tell us. How about that?
Training camp tour, man. My first spot.
Hell yeah. Let's do it live.
Let's do it.
We'll do it live right here at HBC.
Can we please?
Do it.
Awesome. Well, and maybe, hey, if people want to come out and hang out in Hamburg with us, we'll schedule it. We'll let people know. So
Love it.
awesome.
Thank you, guys.
And we
Connor.
have no crying kids that we know of, all three of us. So this is a
Until
special
tomorrow.
podcast.
Until tomorrow.
You walk upstairs and you just never know. It's
You never know.
Right,
You never know
outside, out
what's.
of
You
mind.
never know what's coming.
ah.
Thanks so much, man. Great to
All right.
see you.
Take it easy, guys.
You got it. Talk soon.